Haters, ¿cómo están? Les doy la bienvenida nuevamente aquí al canal conmigo, su host El Diablo. Les doy la bienvenida a su canal de El Hater, una nueva entrevista para nuestro segmento Conversaciones desde el Inframundo. Y tenemos aquí el gran honor de tener a uno de los miembros de una banda de reciente surgimiento. Tenemos aquí la suerte de poder hablar con Brenton Wilson, quien es el guitarrista y voz de la banda Rocky's Pride and Joy, y nos está acompañando esta noche aquí en la Ciudad de México, día allá sábado en Australia desde Melbourne, si no me equivoco. Entonces vamos a comenzar con la entrevista. Brenton, did you hear the fireworks? I told you it's Independence Day here in Mexico. Yeah. How are you, man?
I'm good. Yeah, doing well.
Great, man. First of all, I want to thank you a lot for your time, for being here in The Hater. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be listening to the album, your debut album with Rocky's Pride and Joy, because it's such a great piece of art, a great piece of doomy, psychedelic, stoner, rock metal that definitely will make a lot of people bang their heads. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. And without further ado, I will ask the first question I had for you this evening. And this question is courtesy of Hamish Glenncross from the band Godthrymm. And the question is this: what album or song would you like to hear or experience again for the first time?
Oh my God, there's so many to choose from. The song, I'll probably go with Heartbreaker by Led Zeppelin. That song is that's the whole reason I started playing guitar, was because of that song. And just the impact that it had, the whole sound, and Jimmy Page's there's that guitar solo in the middle where the band cuts out and he just solos on his own. I'd never heard that before. And hearing that song completely changed my life. So I guess that's probably the biggest one. Hearing that again, with fresh ears, would be amazing, because it blew my mind the first time. So.
How old were you when you first heard the song?
I reckon I was maybe 13.
A very critical age when we start to define who we are, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just, I don't know, playing sport and just going to school and whatever. I didn't have a real thing that I felt passionate about at that point. So then hearing that song, deciding to play guitar or learn guitar at that point, and that just changed everything.
Yeah, man, there's always a song or an album that defines us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big one.
You had a music background before that moment? I mean, your parents encouraged your love for music, or maybe a friend, an uncle? I don't know.
He was around. My parents were both. My dad played guitar. We had guitars at home already because of that. So it was definitely around, and a lot of that early stuff that I listened to all came from my parents and from my brother and sister. That was, a lot of that classic 60s and 70s stuff, and 90s stuff that came from my older brother and sister as well. So it all connected.
You grew in the right circumstances.
Pretty much, yeah. I was very, very lucky that
very lucky, man.
My dad in particular had great taste in music, still does, so that helped a lot.
Yeah, definitely, man. I believe you. It's growing with those kind of circumstances most definitely will help a man, oh crap, a guy in such a young age to embrace music as a path for life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had all of at home, lots of different records and stuff that I could just get lost in. So it's pretty lucky in that sense, actually.
Yeah, man, and you definitely took it by storm because I mean it's all paying in these days because you are making such great music, man. So thanks to your dad for putting you in that path just in the beginning.
Yeah.
Man, the next question I got for you is the next one.
Sure.
It's related to the debut album, and All the Colors of Darkness is a very dynamic and fun to listen collection of songs that works as a gloomy gateway to the psychedelic side of rock and metal. Outside of musical taste, what are the things that you, Jessi, and Dom have in common that led you to write this fantastic album?
I think that like there's a lot of also influence from movies as well. We all really love horror movies. Dom in particular just loves horror movies. Like he'll watch horror movies to relax, you know, like he just loves it. And
I
a lot
can
of that comes,
understand it.
you know, a lot of that comes into like that doom sort of stuff of like creating a moody atmosphere or the tension that's in horror movies and that sort of thing. That's like a big one. That and probably just like books as well. The sort of stuff that we like to read. Again, Dom is like he loves like H.P. Lovecraft and stuff like that, which is again kind of moody and dark and weird and yeah, all in that sort of vein, I guess. So those outside of music, that stuff definitely is common ground between us all.
Yeah, man. And now that you mention it, I didn't realize that when I heard the album, but now that you're saying it, it's almost obvious because yeah, the tension, the atmosphere, the dangers that lurks around you when you're listening to the album, it's very almost physical, almost palpable because every song has a riff or a lead, and maybe a phrase that it feels like pure danger, man. And I love that about the album. That's a very distinctive characteristic of your music.
That's good to hear, actually, because I like that in music as well. Like, not exactly metal, but like I remember discovering the Stooges for the first time and listening to like Raw Power and Funhouse by the Stooges, and even actually like when I was younger, listening to Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses too, and feeling like it was kind of dangerous for whatever reason. Like the riffs and the attitude behind it, it felt like almost, should I be listening to this? It's kind of dangerous and it's kind of coming from this almost negative kind of place, but in a great way. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but I really like that in music. So I'm stoked to hear that it's coming across in ours a bit as well. Because it's definitely part of the intention for sure.
Yeah, man, it shows. And as you're saying, it well, we can drag influence from very different kind of bands, studios, Guns N' Roses, and even away from music, like you were saying, Lovecraft, and I don't know. In this side of the world, we have writers like Neruda that have a very special way to describe a scene, a moment in the story that are very they feel very dangerous. You feel like you're in the mud with the protagonist of the stories, and with the songs on all the colors of darkness, I certainly feel like I am part of the stories and the tales and all the ideas that you put on the songs.
Oh, that's awesome, man. It's like great to hear because it's hard to tell when you're making something if your intentions are like actually working or if they're coming across through the music. So I'm glad it's working on some level. Yeah.
Yeah, man, definitely it will work with a lot of people, with others not so much. But that's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of music. One can have a very personal approach about an album, about a song, and whether you like it or not, all of point of view are very valid.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Great, man. The next question I got for you is this one. Nowadays, making a living out of music, specifically heavy music, it's a very difficult, if not virtually impossible. But as things got harder for musicians, the quality, complexity, and dedication of the bands got bigger and stronger. What do you think is the reason behind it?
I don't know. I guess it's like I guess it's just one of those things of like, if you're gonna do it, you have to just give it everything that you've got. I mean, I don't know necessarily if we're thinking or expecting to make a living off of the band. It's more about just making stuff that we like and putting it out and hoping that people enjoy it. But I mean, it is extremely difficult to make a living off it. I mean, the money's just not there like it probably once was. But at the same time, it's more so just a creative pursuit, I suppose. And it's on a bit more selfish in terms of we just want to create music that we love, and we hope that people love it too, and other people love it. And I mean, yeah, it's a shitload of work, don't get me wrong, but enjoyable like always. So we're just doing what we can, I guess.
Yeah, man, just for the love of it. Because, yeah, you know, the days where the bands were millionaires, you know, the days back in the day with like Motley Crue, like Kiss, Metallica, when they were the breakers of all the rules about heavy music. Those times are long gone, and even now the more successful bands are not even capable of making a decent profit of their music, let alone touring.
Yeah, it's pretty full on. I mean, I kind of have I think from what we've seen, at least, music has this kind of like cycle that happens. And I kind of do think that at some point, who knows when, God knows when, but I do think at some point that like rock music and heavy music will swing back the other way to being like really popular again. We just have no idea as to when that might happen. And it just is the way it is. I mean, like, no one would have really foreseen in the 90s that it was going to explode the way that it did. It kind of seemed like guitar music was dying towards the end of the 80s because it had got so cheesy, and it was just not really what it didn't have that danger and that element of like relatability. And then that all changed in the 90s, of course, and it just exploded into this huge thing. And I think there's potential for that to happen again, but who knows? I mean, you kind of need these generational voices. They're impossible to come across. I mean, like, in a weird way, a lot of people were kind of relating Billie Eilish to Kurt Cobain in this like huge explosive change of voice. It's not rock music, of course, but it's more of that like presenting a different view to like what everyone else has got at that time. And I think it can happen again with guitar, like rock music, but just who knows when, and who knows who will be able to do that, but it's possible.
Yeah, man. It has to be more like it's about the cultural movement, the cultural movement, than the art itself. It's more like, you know, merchandise, marketing, shows. It's all about the the show industry more than the music industry. But I understand. I totally understand what you're saying. It's they can relate certain people, certain icons of back in the day, the 90s, the 80s, with some of the icons of these days, and they can find some similarities between them. And it's very easy for most of the people just to say, "Oh, if these people, if this person has these characteristics that are similar to the ones that Cobain had, well, maybe he is like made of the same." But it's a very simplistic way to see it, but most of the people see it like that.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing about being in a band now is that, like, it's not enough to be a good musician. It's not enough to write good songs. You have to have all these other skills as well. It's like you have to have an understanding of marketing. You have to have an understanding of, how to correctly promote yourself, and you have to have like graphic design knowledge, all of these things, because you're managing your own social media and you're managing your own image now more than bands ever did in the past.
One main company, maybe, like a main company or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, previously, like, obviously bands had their creative drive, but then their record label and their PR company, all of these things could be outsourced so that the band wasn't directly doing that work. They'd have input, but not actually doing it. Whereas now for so many bands, especially heavy bands that honestly can't afford to hire people to do it all the time, we have to do all of that shit ourselves. And that is like a lot of work and a lot of skills that we probably don't really have. I mean, I spent 15 years getting good at the guitar. I didn't spend 15 years getting good at marketing, so it's a struggle in that sense, but yeah, it's all part of it, all part of the process.
Yeah, man, a fun struggle for some people. There may be a pain in the ass from others, but it is what the music industry, the times are required from a musician, and even more from a heavy music musician.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, man. The next question, it's a little shorter, easier, I think. Which concert has made which concert has made the bigger impact on you?
Oh, shit. That's a hard question. Well, recently, there's a show I saw recently that I thought was incredible. Eagles of Death Metal just came to Australia recently. They played in Adelaide, and that was like just an incredible rock and roll show. It made me feel like I was seeing Little Richard or something like that. Like it was just pure rock and roll joy, everything that rock and roll should be. It was just a great time. In recent memory, that's one of the best ones I've seen, because it was just so fun. The whole thing was just about having a good time, and yeah, that was an amazing show.
Respecting the original spirit of rock, don't you think? I mean, having a good time, having a beer with the pals, and meeting people, interchanging ideas and some tastes, and most of it making the community grow.
Yeah, and there was such a good united feeling in the venue that night, that everyone was there for the one purpose, which, I mean, in that case, it was just having a good time, just in pure enjoyment.
Yeah, and the magic happened.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, there's plenty that I've seen along the way that have had big impacts, but it's so hard to narrow them down. I mean, even like I saw Tanacious D in 2006, and that's a funny one because
those shows are very, very fun, man.
Yeah, and that was just an incredible night. I mean, what more can you say? An amazing show.
Yeah, man. Jack Black is not an actor. He was born to be a musician, a showman, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably. I mean, one of the best performers you could see. It's just so entertaining.
Yeah, man. I mean, comedy and heavy music have a very special bond because I like bands like Steel Panther who can make music and still get away with more than with when they put some comedy on their lyrics and on all of their image and the marketing they are doing. They even were participating in a talent contest a few months ago, if I'm not mistaken. So making that kind of things happen, like Steel Panther or Tanacious D, it's very special, and it's something that the community, the heavy music community, just embrace with wide open arms.
Yeah, definitely. Which is quite funny too, because you know, I guess anyone outside of that sort of heavy music scene might think that it's very gloomy and serious all the time, but there's so much lighthearted comedy going on within all of it as well. Even even when I listen to death metal, I love death metal, but I find it quite funny as well because it's just so over the top. It's like this weird, like, I don't know, it's just so over the top, and I just find it so amusing in that way as well. As heavy and as brutal as it is, it's just still like so much fun.
Yeah, definitely, man. As you were saying, death metal is one of the most fun subgenres in metal that it can have very different impacts depending on the mood you are while listening to it, because it can get you to the darkest of places and also be fun as fuck, man, because then suddenly you find yourself listening and revisiting the lyrics of some of the songs, and you can't help but thinking, man, what the hell is going on here? When do I cross the line to a different dimension when all of these tales are happening in this moment, or happened a few years ago, or will happen in the future?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and it's just so, a lot of it is just so absurd that, like, I just kind of can't help but laugh at as well. But I love it all the same. So.
Yeah, man, me too. And man, I got one last question for you, and it's this one. If you could bring back to life a band or a musician, which one will be?
I mean, I'm very curious to know what someone like Kurt or what someone like John Lennon may have to say about like the state of the world and the state of the music industry. In terms of like a point of view, it would be really interesting to hear what those guys kind of have to say about it. In terms of just music, I don't know, maybe Bowie, like maybe just see maybe Bowie, maybe Prince as well. Just like, I don't know, just what would those guys be creating still now? But at the same time too, I mean, I don't know. There's so many.
Yeah,
maybe you could bring Chris back for a while.
Yeah, and it's curious that you will bring back, you will be bringing back people that we lost only a few years ago. That we have the fortune, we were lucky enough to still meet them when they were alive and they were creating music. And I think most of the people will be bringing back people from way far in the past, and you picked two persons that they were recently deceased. That's a very interesting choice.
I think it's probably just because I'm such a fan of both of them that I just want more music. I just want from them, and it doesn't exist. I mean, Prince has got some like crazy vault of like unreleased stuff, but yeah, I mean, probably more so in terms of like someone's opinion. I'd be very curious to hear what Kurt Cobain has to say about what's going on today and how he would fit in to, how the music industry functions today. He probably would hate it. He'd probably hate every fucking second of it. But it would be interesting to, hear his point of view on like what's going on in music today.
Most definitely. Yeah, they will certainly hate it because back in the day were bad enough to make them feel the way they were feeling. I can only imagine what they will say in these days. I mean, maybe they will not be in the music business just because the state of it.
It's entirely possible, yeah. Just retire.
Just take a little glimpse of it. Nope, maybe architecture, maybe law school.
Yeah, that's it. A complete pivot. We'll just try something else.
Yeah, man. Brenton, those are all the questions I got for you. Thanks a lot for your help to answering them. I'm pretty sure that the people who watch this video will have a very fun time listening to it. And as I asked you before we start recording, do you have a question for me to ask for my next guest?
I'm always curious about like what people's main like influences are, because I kind of think, well, it's been said a few times by some different people that you need to have at least 2 influences to start a band. And so I'm always curious to know, like, what are other musicians' like top 2? What are the 2 things, those 2 artists that are directly influencing what you do? And, most bands you can kind of boil down to, they've got 2 direct influences that are creating their sound. So I guess that would be my question is, who are your 2 most important influences on the music that you're making?
Great, man. I think that will be a very, very long answer from my next guest, because it's one of those questions that you can tear the meat out of it for hours and hours. Yeah, man. Brenton, thanks a lot for your time, for your honesty, for being such a cool guy. And I'm pretty sure you and Dom and Jessi will have a very successful career, because, I mean, it's true, man. I'm saying it from my heart. Honestly, it's a hell of an album. I listened to it because my Qabar sent it to me, and then the first time I heard, I was like, "Oh my God, what the fuck is this?" Because I look at the cover and I think, oh, it's maybe stoner rock, all stuff, kind of. But then the first song started, and suddenly the room became darker, and I felt like cold and threatened by it, and I loved it. It's a great album, man.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Haters, eso es todo lo que tenemos en esta entrevista con nuestro amigo Brenton Wilson desde Australia, de la banda Rocky's Pride and Joy. Por favor, vayan a checar su álbum debut que lleva por título All the Colors of Darkness. Es un álbum que de verdad es certificado hater. Nos estamos viendo en el siguiente video. Por favor, cuídense mucho. Hasta luego.